Nigeria is the first African country to be contacted by the new president of the United States. President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday had a telephone conversation with President Trump at the request of the American president. The conversation was cordial, and Mr. Buhari congratulated Mr. Trump on his election. The two leaders discussed ways to improve cooperation in the fight against terrorism through provision of necessary equipment. Mr. Trump assured the Nigerian leader of U.S. readiness to cut a new deal in helping Nigeria in terms of military weapons to combat terrorism. He commended President Muhammadu Buhari for the efforts made so far in rescuing 24 of the Chibok girls and the strides being taken by the Nigerian army in combating Boko Haram. In the days to come, we will be seeing both, presidents having a parley, specifically in the United States, as they did mention in that particular meeting. Nigeria's inflation rate is another thing that is causing many to worry. Almost on a daily basis, it looks like 1 week, one trouble for the economy, but now it is rising to about 18.72% in January this year alone. And this is coming from the National Bureau of Statistics, which says it shot up from 18.55% in December of 2016. Now, the NBS says that the Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation, increased by 18.72% year on year in January of 2017, and of course 0.17 percentage points higher from the rate recorded in December, and increases were recorded in all divisions that yield the headline index. In the meantime, Senator Ali Modu Sheriff remains the authentic national chairman of the People's Democratic Party. That is what is trending in our political space. That's according to the Court of Appeal sitting in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. The three-man panel of judges, in a unanimous decision, agreed that the former Borno State governor is the authentic national chairman of the party. The party has been witnessing leadership crisis back and forth following the inauguration of the Senator Ahmed McCarthy-led National Caretaker Committee since May 2016. You can catch up on that on our website, as well as so many other feeds coming through all in one place simultaneously. We'll focus on the biggest stories as prime time in Lagos and the rest of the nation. It's State of the Nation. Welcome. Everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. I'm Sulaiman Ali. This is State of the Nation. Data feed coming through in one place, channelstv.com, youtube.com/channelsweb. Visit m.channelstv.com. Wherever you are, it's a live stream. You can also be part of the program. Send in your tweets. I got my name there at Ali, and use the State of the Nation hashtag for real-time interaction. Now, to further discuss the increase in inflation rate in the country, which is our major focus today. With me on State of the Nation tonight, I have two gentlemen. One in the studios here in Lagos with me is Mr. Muda Yusuf. He is the Director General of the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And in our Abuja studios, we have Mr. Olabode Showumi, who is an economist. Both of you gentlemen, Nigerians, would love to know what exactly is happening. I'll start from home. This is Lagos. And of course, Mr. Muda, a lot of Nigerians really would want to know, first thing first, how did we get here? Perhaps maybe a look at how we got here will give us a better understanding of where we're headed.
Well, it's a combination of factors. First of all, let me say that when you have a situation of high inflation as we have, it has two major implications. It has implications for those who are in business, those who are in production. It means an escalation of production and operating costs. which invariably is transmitted in form of higher prices to end users. Then it also has a major impact on welfare. Because if there is anything that is the greatest enemy of the poor, particularly those who we say are in the bottom of the pyramid, it is inflation. Because it erodes purchasing power, it erodes the real income of everybody, particularly the fixed income earners. So those are the major problems that this inflationary situation creates in an economy. And when we discuss inflation, I think the bigger issue to discuss is the cost of goods and services in the economy. There's a distinction. Inflation is the rate of increase of prices. But the worry among Nigerians today, among businesses today, is about the high cost of goods and services.
You know,
so those are the bigger issues.
I like the way you put it now, because when you relate it to cost of goods and services, it will, I think, be very easy for the everyday Nigerian and everyone to understand. Let's put this in perspective now that we already understand what a lot of people are going through at the moment. Almost everything has skyrocketed. At least, if we start from there, tell us, how did this happen? Now that we already know that you've linked it to the increase of goods and services.
Yes, you see, we put this in context, and we look at the key drivers of cost of goods and services in the economy. The first major factor is the currency depreciation. We have seen over 100% depreciation in currency over the last 2 years or thereabouts. This has had a lot of implications for cost of inputs in industries and cost of consumer items. You know, goods that, because we are largely import dependent. In the production sector, in the real sector, and in the consumer product sector, there's a lot, there's a high level of dependency on imports. So there's a major shock coming from the exchange rate depreciation angle. The second major driver is high energy cost. And this is something that affects all operators across the economy. You look at the cost of diesel, it has gone up significantly. Diesel is now 270 naira per liter. And when you are talking of an economy that doesn't have public power supply, so to say, a lot of businesses now rely on diesel, a lot of households rely on diesel, and more importantly, all the trucks that move goods from one part of the country to the other, they rely on diesel. So that has a major implication for transportation cost. Now, of course, you have the cost of gas. Gas is priced in dollars. A lot of industrialists have been complaining about that. And when you are faced with a situation of a company that is producing and earning naira, and you have to service your energy cost in dollars, you know the implication of that. You look at the cost of PMS. Of course, we have a regulated price, but we are beginning to see that in some parts of the country, PMS is now selling for above 145 naira per liter. And many SMEs rely on all these small generators to power their businesses. You know, of course, the cost of LPFO, the cost of kerosene. So energy issue is a major factor when we are dealing with issue of prices. Then, of course, you have the trade policy aspect. Trade policy has to do with imports and exports. Now, when you have a situation where there are some major restrictions in imports, and there are structural limitations within the economy to produce, and yet there are a lot of barriers to imports, you create a scarcity situation. And once you have scarcity, prices go up. So, to some extent, those who have the products could be smiling to the banks. But the welfare implication for the majority of the citizens is very adverse and very profound. That is why there is a lot of cry and pain across the country.
Let's quickly reach out to Mr. Sowunmi, who is in our Abuja studios. Quickly here, Mr. Yusuf has painted the picture, and it would seem that everything is interwoven now that we're already in dire straits here. Looking at it, it has affected a whole lot in the economy. Tell us your thinking of what you think we can do that we're not doing rightly at the moment, knowing full well that this truly is an import-dependent economy.
I think it's important to differentiate two things. The market interface and the economy itself. When we're talking about economy, we're talking about production, we're talking about the distribution chain, and we're talking about the exchange, in which case where you talk about the currency dynamics. In terms of production, we're talking about production of goods and services, because the production of services and the export of the same is equally as valuable as the production of goods. Then you talk about the distribution networks, which in Nigeria, mainly the railways and some of the dilapidated roads. Then we now talk about the exchange, which, like the gentleman from the Lagos Chamber of Commerce indicated, has been domiciled in dollars. Now, when after all the economy, which is the engine room, is defined, you now come to the market, which is the interface. At the market is where you do the exchange of goods and services. The inflation rate and all the adverse effects of goods and services that we talk about to the common man is what actually happens at the market interface and not at the economic background. What has happened is that in Nigeria as at today, the whole gamut of the economy, whether it is production, whether it is distribution, whether it's even the exchange, is totally missing. So we take goods from outside to a market that is here. A typical example, like he said, is the gas issues that he explained. It is a product of lazy thinking from the Ministry of Petroleum to come up with a policy that will say that gas should be domiciled in dollars. The argument, which is both foolish and illegal, is that the market is a dollar-denominated economy and it's an international economy, and that the products, the services, the equipment are dollar-denominated. But the truth be told, even the man that manufactures pure water buys his remote osmosis equipment from abroad, and it is dollar-denominated. Does that mean we should start selling pure water in dollars? The fact is that in Nigeria today, if the Constitution means anything, it says that the only legal rate of legal means of transaction is the naira. So for any arm of government to come and price a fundamental resource such as gas in dollars is not only lazy thinking, it is illegal. And those are some of the things that affect us. Now, coming to the implication of this, gas prices is one of the reasons that has made nonsense of the increase in the power prices. The gas is one of the reasons that have made it a function that the productive part of the economy, the manufacturing part of the economy is not functional. Because if a significant part of it is dominated in dollars and it is not subject to the economic fundamentals which affects the country, it does not work. So at the root of it, if we are to look at short-term goals in terms of solution, having identified the problems, is that there needs to be a massive drive for exportation in Nigeria. And one country that readily comes to mind is Sweden. Sweden has a population of about 9 million, which is less than Lagos. It has a country size which is about the size of Nigeria. Yes, it is one of the largest economies in the world. It has some of the biggest companies in the world. Volvo is a product of Sweden. Tetra Pak, which is used for fruit juices, is a product of Sweden. IKEA, the largest furniture company in the world, is from Sweden. Ericsson, which is the largest telecoms company in the world, is from Sweden. So if those factors are to be considered, it shows that what it needs for economic breakthrough is not just numbers and all the things that are being said. It is not rocket science.
We'll take a moment. We'll take a moment, Mr. Shomi. Just a moment here. We'll take a moment. When we return, we'll be looking at some of those factors to be considered and see how well we can get ourselves out of this dire strait. Don't forget, I'll also be asking Mr. Yusuf, the CBN directive. We'll have to go back in time. The CBN directive banning dollar deposit into bank accounts then, and of course, and so many other things about the BDC, how this has affected the economy now that we're getting to see that some people have been keeping dollars in their homes, allegedly by the security agencies, specifically the EFCC, if that has affected what we're going through at the moment. A State of the Nation, a moment, and we'll return shortly.